Hey guys, it's Deborah. So I'm doing this on the fly. I just put a bunch of slides together to catch up with you guys and talk to you guys and just give you some updates about me and stuff and at the end. But first, let's just go through these slides, just some news things and stuff like that. I was just talking for so long and then my thing just stopped working, my phone app that I use. So I have to start again. Anyway, you guys don't know this, but it was just frustrating. Okay, let me read this community post from Aussie Fig Tree Online. This wasn't 10 hours ago. It was a couple days ago, and I took a snapshot because it was really good. Okay, important barren fig tree parable rapture update. I have always read the second half of Psalm 90:10 as saying it will be soon cut off, and then we fly away. But on reading the Hebrew and the Strongs, a more accurate meaning would be quickly or suddenly. This aligns with the idea of a sudden snatching away, and also Jesus' statement, "Behold, I come quickly." So in the context of Psalm 90:10 and the 70 to 80 years, rather than saying that the rapture will happen soon after the 70 years, instead we would read it as sometime after the 70 years, but quickly or suddenly. It's not soon, it's like suddenly. In other words, without any notice given. When they say peace and safety, sudden destruction. So I just wanted to bring that up because it's interesting to go into the Strongs and see like how did the Hebrew or Greek word really mean? Like how did they view that word? And it fits with the suddenly because of obviously this verse, peace and safety and sudden destruction. And also when it says they will be eating and drinking, giving in marriage, and then they will and then sudden destruction will come. So they won't have any notice. It'll be like the days of Noah and the days of Lot. They were completely living normal lives, laughing. Noah, Lot's sons were laughing at him, so everything was fine. Now, that doesn't mean there can't be pockets of the world going through hard things, but in overall, there's still people living quite normally. And then I heard one time in the spirit that God works in waiting and then suddenly, something like that, where what I mean is we live these mundane lives, these like things take so long, they drag on. You're like, is this thing ever going to end? Or am I ever going to get this breakthrough? Am I ever going to get this healing? Am I ever going to get a job? And am I ever going to get a house? Will I ever have a kid? Will I ever find a spouse? Will the rapture ever happen? All the things. And then when it happens, it's like suddenly. It feels like I've given this analogy before where you're writing a test and you have all this time. Say you have an hour to do an exam. And that seems like really, really long. And then you've put so much into it. You're so exhausted. You're kind of slowing down by the end. You're like, this was a lot. And then when the teacher says, put your pencils down, do not write another thing. It's like that just comes so suddenly and you have, I won't say regret, but sometimes regret where you're like, whoa, I thought I had more time. You know, that feeling of I would have done more. And I think that's just how this is all going to go down. I mean, it is. But I thought it was interesting that he sees that with Psalm 90:10 because what I feel about the fig tree generation is it's a generation. I mean, basically, we don't know how it's exactly going to break down because, one, the days are shortened, the tribulation, so that no one will perish. Or sorry, otherwise all flesh will perish. I'm paraphrasing, but basically the days will be shortened. So we don't know exactly how that's going to look. We do get the 2,550 days, that whole thing, but 1,690 days and then okay, so the two halves were the time and a half times two. But he says the days are shortened. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that if there are human beings still alive right now who were born around 1948, that means that generation still has not passed away. So we don't need to be super specific on it. It's just the generation hasn't passed away. They are still alive and we still have that time. So instead of going to like a T, it has to be on this day or something like that. So I wanted to bring this up because I just thought it was interesting that it will happen so suddenly and just to relate it to real life stuff where you do feel like things just drag on. And even in our situation now, we're all like, when is this happening? And even like the war right now with Russia, it's like, I thought this was going to be like a fast thing. And here it is months and months. I think it's like over 6 months, a long time later, and it's still like it is. And, but when it happens, it will be so sudden, the whole thing, it's just going to feel like just crazy sudden. So anyway, I just wanted to share that because I thought it was interesting. If the Strongs does really say it like that, then I just want everybody to view it like that because we're in this time of waiting and mundane, this longing, and it's just, that, but we don't want to be like where God's basically in essence saying, put your pencils down. You cannot write another word. You cannot add another jot or tittle to your life. What you've done so far is what you've done. You know what I mean? Because when you're in the moment, you're like, I have so much time. And even if you're dragging and tired or whatever, like no matter what you're feeling, by the end of a race, you're exhausted. This is a race and we're in a marathon type thing and we're coming to the end and you're exhausted. So inevitably you may, slow down, but hopefully we'll get maybe a glimpse of that finish line just before he calls the trumpet sound and we'll sprint to the finish, because once he says pencils down, that's it. We are out of the age of grace. We will be into the age of Jacob's trouble, where it's whole different rules in that game. So, okay, let me move to the next thing. So yeah, I thought I'd just go over some different news articles. This one, I mean, they're not all that new, but just in case people aren't up to date. The United States has reaffirmed its commitment to defend every inch of NATO territory as closed-door discussions by the Alliance Nuclear Planning Group got underway in Brussels. Now, I don't remember when this was, but this was not too long ago. As members on Thursday, so it might have been, I don't know if it was last week or a little older, pressed ahead with plans to hold a nuclear exercise. Russia bristled and issued warnings should Ukraine ever join NATO. Kiev is well aware that such a step would mean a guaranteed escalation to a World War III. Deputy Secretary of Russia's Security Council, Alexander Ventikov, okay, I don't know if I said that right, told the state TASS news agency the suicidal nature of such a step is understood by NATO members themselves. So that speaks for itself. They can't join NATO. And see, they put those World War III things out there again. Like, that's the wording that we're hearing. And then this, I know you guys probably saw, this was a warning that went out in Russia about nuclear attack, how to prepare and stuff like that. It's obviously in Russian, but this is a community post, I think, by somebody. It says, urgent, Russia issues civil defense instructions to entire population, radiation. Oh, it's a radiation alert. School children in every single city and town in Russia brought home official government notices today, telling families what to do in civil defense emergencies like radiation. Poster boards are going up in mass transit stations, at city halls, and shopping centers with the exact same message. New York City did the same. So Hal Turner talks about that. It's just interesting because it's like when people like me, and I'm sure many of you have warned family and friends that the Lord is telling us something big is happening. We're in the very end. And they all say, they've been saying that for ages. We've always been in the end. We've been in the end for 2,000 years. And, they don't believe that God talked to us personally. And I have, anyway, the point is, now look at the world. Now look what's going on. And it says New Jersey too. The state of New Jersey also began warning its population of nuclear emergencies with large poster boards in shopping malls. In September, New Jersey placed giant ads on the sides of transit buses with the same warnings, and other countries too. Just this week, the country of Finland told its citizens to get potassium iodine pills, take radiation emergency, take in a radiation emergency. So I guess just the pills, the iodine pills and all that stuff. So it's happening all over. This is a little bit old. I just wanted to touch base in case people don't know. And yeah, I mean, things like this have happened before, but obviously not in this convergence. It's the convergence. That's the word of the day, like it has been for the last few years. So here's another, I think it's like a Twitter thing. Instant news alerts. Israel and Lebanon have reached a U.S. brokered agreement to settle their long disputed maritime border. Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid said Tuesday, potentially unlocking significant offshore gas productions. So as you know, that's a bit of old news, but not that old. Basically, it's a type of dividing the land, I think, again. So I'm not too sure about it, but from what I've heard, it's just more giving up things that are supposed to be Israel's. And yeah, I don't know too much about it, but it's caused a stir. Like, there's a lot of stir. Now, from what I hear, Lebanon was saying a lot of threatening things, but people on the radio were saying that they don't really have the ability to, kind of attack Israel, or I don't know fully, but basically there was a lot of back and forth verbiage, and like they were saying obviously like things about bombing Israel or making them no more or something. So the whole point is it's about dividing things, taking things away from Israel because of peace and safety. It's all for the sake of peace and safety. When Jesus said, I did not come to bring peace, but a sword to divide. And when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction comes. So yeah, it's more of that. And it's leading to the dividing of the land in general. Okay, so you have another one in the Washington Examiner. China urges all citizens to evacuate Ukraine. Again, this is a bit old. It's actually it's not that old. This one's from October 16th. So yeah, that's really weird. I mean, I say the word convergence again because when anybody says, "Oh, this has been happening forever," all of this, no. Okay, here's another one. Hussein al-Shika. Okay, the Minister of Civil Affairs in the Palestinian Authority and designated to succeed Abu Mazen this morning welcomes the Australian decision to withdraw its recognition of West Jerusalem as Israel's capital. So they are withdrawing that, Australia. They're not saying Jerusalem's Israel capital anymore. That's big. Here's another one. China, India asking their citizens to leave Ukraine. Serbia close embassy in Kiev. CIS countries telling citizens to leave. Some countries can read the map very well. They know Putin better than the Western world does. So that previous little slide that I had up there, it was basically with Australia saying, no, it's not the capital. It's kind of going back to, it's again about the dividing of the land. Lapid wants to give Palestine their own section, and I think in a way by Australia and other countries coming out of that, it's just pushing that to be closer. Okay, and then this other countries leaving Ukraine, I mean, that just says it all. They're urging their citizens. You have people telling them take iodine pills, get the kits, or not take the pills, but get the kits. I live near actually some sort of plant where they give out these iodine kits. They've been doing it for, since the plant's been around for like 50, 100 years or whatever. So that's not new. So we get these kits. But yeah, it's about convergence. And yeah, that's some of the latest news. I'm sure you guys know. Then I want to touch on one other, or I think two other things. So yeah, this Henry Groover, I don't know a ton about him, but it's kind of important what he talked about back in the 90s, I think it was. He saw submarines attack America. I don't remember everything about it, but basically he saw, America getting annihilated from an attack, I think from Russia, and it was like so unexpected. I did share a little clip of something on one of my videos where Henry Groover said back in either the 80s or the 90s, he said, when Russia opens its door to the masses and all the other countries start letting them in, then this is when this attack's going to happen. So he thought that stuff was going to happen back in the 90s or 80s or whenever. There was a lot of, I guess, tension back then. And that's why people are like, when we talk about the Lord giving us dreams, visions, talking to us in different ways, showing many of us that his coming is in our generation, people bring it back to, yeah, but Henry Groover thought this in the 90s and all this stuff. And I just bring it to the convergence. But I have a very unique story because I wasn't into end times at all until my twins were diagnosed with autism and then the Lord told me, and I didn't know about any of this, that there is issues with immunizations and things like that. And then I went on this whole thing and then he showed me it's about my return and that there's like this whole plot and plan. And I knew this way before this demic, I'll say, I don't know what word I can say, but I was talking about this since 2018. So he had combined those two issues, their yearly childhood immunizations. I don't know if that's a fine word to say, whatever. And linked to end times. So he linked those two together before anyone I ever heard ever did. Ever. Now, I'm sure some people kind of did, but, this was traumatic to our family. And for him to open my eyes like that, that's why it hurt when friends and family, some of them didn't believe me. Because I'm like, you don't think the Lord's telling me this? I mean, it's not because I just got on some end times train or, all of a sudden there's a demic and a pandemic, and I am just jumping on the train of end times. So it doesn't matter. All I know is people are going to believe what they want to believe, and especially if they're very, very still ingrained in this world or they have a decently nice life. I don't know. There's many reasons why people don't see things, and you can only say things and some people won't hear, but it's the convergence. But with this Henry Groover thing, it is hard because people have been saying this for a while. Mind you, he would be part of the generation. I mean, since 1948. So was it so wrong of him to be talking like that in the 90s? Not really. But anyway, if you guys don't know, he did say that about Russia, that when they open their doors to the mass, then let their masses go. And what's happening with the conscription, they're letting lots of people leave. They're just leaving. Men, right? So I don't know if it's coming true now, but there's a twist to this. Listen to this. I listened to some of his dream, but not all of it. Guess what the part 2 is about? The part 2 is about the new King of England, Prince C, or King C. The new King of England. His vision in the 90s is about him. So I'll put a link in the comment section. I'll put it as a pinned comment at the top. So if you want to listen to it, it's like a podcast of his dream from like the 90s. So the first part is about Russia opening his doors to the masses. And the second part is about Prince C at the time he was that. I mean, why would he dream about him of all people when he wasn't even, I mean, you know, the queen was still alive. He was just a prince. Like, and it was who knew? I mean, I guess we all knew he could be king, but who knew that these two events would happen almost in the exact same time, that this war would break out with Russia and the queen would die almost at the same time. She could have died 20 years ago, or she could live to be 100, and then it would be years apart. These events happened at the same time, and his dream was about these two things. That really was like, whoa. So what he dreamt was, well, you'll hear the dream. It was a little weird. And then there was a part to it that didn't fit. And this is where I want to talk to you for a moment about dreams. So I was listening to his whole dream yesterday. And in the end, or closer to the end, he talks about this general. And of course, I forgot his name. I think his name is Alexander Labid or something. Okay, it sounded like Lapid, but it wasn't. He'll say it in the dream. It was a Russian, like a general or something. He was running to be president. So basically of Russia. And so he, I forget his name. Oh gosh, I think it was Alexander Labed or something like that. So the point is, in Henry Groover's dream, this guy was stepping up and saying, you know, we're going to destroy the world. And I don't know, he was leading and doing all this stuff. This guy is dead now. This guy is dead. So in Henry Groover's dream, this guy was like stepping up to the plate and either leading this charge. I think he's the one who said, okay, we're going to attack now. So this guy can't do that. In Henry Groover's dream, it was him. So I was like, oh, this dream is not legit. It's fake. It's false. Forget it. Like, it got me upset because I was like, what? Like, everything was so on par. And then you get to this one general guy who apparently is leading everything, and he's dead. He died in 2002. So I was praying. I hope I prayed. I was falling asleep, so now I can't remember, but I do need to pray. The point is, it threw me off. But then I started thinking about some dreams and visions and stuff like that. So some dreams seem like they are just a warning. They're not prophetic. They're a warning. So they don't come to pass sometimes exactly as is, but they can partially come to pass. And it depends on the recipient, how they take it. Did people pray? Did things change or whatever? So was there repentance or whatever? So basically, maybe, you know, I don't know. I don't know why he saw that guy. I just know I want to give an example of a dream that came to pass, but not exactly to a T. So that actually kind of happened to me once, I believe, but let me give an example of one that I really remember. So I have this friend, and she dreamt that this happened mid-pandemic, maybe, you know, it was when the third dose came out, the third one. So she dreamt that she was in, and I could have this wrong, I think a shopping mall or a drugstore or something, and then she heard over the announcements, and I'm probably not remembering it perfectly, but something like this, that you can go get your third one now. And she knew it wasn't mandatory and they didn't need to get it. And then she was either convincing a woman or many people. I think it was a woman, but she was trying to convince someone, you don't have to get this, you don't have to do this. And they still went and got it, and everybody was lining up to get it. So then, I think that's the end of the dream. So then she told me about this, but here's the kicker. That same day, her very close loved one, a very close loved one that she's been saying, don't get these things, she's got 1 and 2, came to her that day and said, I just got the third. So here's the thing about it. Before she had this dream, me and her were talking about dreams and not coming to pass. Should we trust them? How trustworthy are these visions, things? Like, we know they'll come, but it's just, they can be disappointing and confusing. And I believe she had that dream. It was like the next day after we were talking about all this, because God wanted to say to her in a small way, these things are not to be ignored. These things are real. Now, obviously, you test the spirits, you test prophecy, you don't despise it. You do all these things, you pray on these things, but he was saying, don't give up. What you're seeing is real. It may not every time being perfect or whatever, but you need to pay attention to these dreams. So the next day after we talk, or right after we talk about how we're frustrated about these things, she has this dream, but it did not come to pass perfectly in the same way she saw it. She didn't dream of that one loved one getting a third dose. She dreamt of a different scenario, but inevitably it was the same, but different. So it, to me, confirmed to her that she was hearing from God many of these times, and he wanted to encourage her with that. But I feel like with this, he also showed me sometimes it's not going to be exactly, it's more symbolic. And I even think about the book of Revelation. I used to struggle when it says there'll be blood up to the horse's bridle. I mean, we don't ride horses. And even if John had seen cars or tanks, would he call them horses? I don't know. I feel like he wouldn't. I would if he said metal things, or I don't know what, well, maybe he wouldn't. Yeah, metal. I don't know what he would have called them, but I highly doubt he would have said up to the horse's bridle. So I don't understand that. It doesn't fit perfectly, because unless it's just all technology is gone, will the Armageddon battle be fought on horses? I mean, I don't know. So things like that. But what I'm saying is, could it be that some of it is symbolic in a way, that there will be a lot of bloodshed? Not necessarily, but John had to see it a certain way because he was from that time. Henry Groover said he saw when there were, oh, by the way, Henry Groover said he was raptured when radiation began. So you'll see it if you listen to the podcast. I didn't know if he talks about a rapture. I don't even know if he believes in one. But he said as soon as radiation started, when I guess there was nuclear stuff happen, he all of a sudden was shot up into the sky and he watched the rest of the events from heaven. This happened. That's what he said. So, yeah. And when he said stuff was happening on Earth, he said he saw nurses with their nurse's hat. Now, nurses don't wear a nurse's hat anymore. I mean, I'm in Canada. I'm not sure if they do other places, but I don't really see nurses wearing no nurse's hat. That's like from the 50s or 90s, I guess, when he had this. But he saw nurses wearing nurses' hats. So he just mentioned that, and that caught me. I just caught it right away, and I was like, oh, wait, what? But again, I go back to my friend's dream. It didn't happen just as she saw it, but it still happened. See what I'm saying? So I don't know. Pray on this. I don't like to be deceived. I don't like to share things that aren't correct. But he did see this Russia stuff, and then them letting people out of their gates, which is weird. Like, why would they let people out? This is the conscription seems why. And then at the same time, he dreamt about the new king of England. So I don't know. I just wanted to share that with you guys. I wanted to share about the what's it called? All the news items and all that. And oh gosh, I just lost my train of thought. Okay, let me just move on. Let me move on. If you're looking at the screen, I thought this was cute. Don't worry about dying. You will live forever. All you have to worry about is location, location, location. So cute. So anyway, yeah, the last thing I just wanted to touch on was I have decided to start a Patreon page for a couple of reasons. One, I had said before, I was thinking like, okay, I have this channel, but this is really kind of a little bit more all over the place. It's not as polished. I was wondering if I should start a channel too, where it's a bit more, basic level, that I could just like hand out business cards, tell people, refer them to my channel. Because this channel, I mean, unless you really know what's going on and you've been, looking at all this stuff for a long time, you just would not know what I'm talking about. And so I was still debating on that, and I'm still debating on that. I don't know that we have time for any of this. I'm just continuing to live life till I know I don't need to do this anymore. So the reason I was thinking of a Patreon page, and is completely up to you guys, I'm going to continue with this channel free of charge, but I wanted to have a smaller community that I feel like is a bit more committed and a bit more just serious. And I'm probably going to make it like a $5 a month thing. I'm not trying to sell the gospel or anything. What I'm going to do is just like private vlogs. I'm going to film myself. I'm going to talk a bit more. I'm going to do a little bit of, if anybody does it with me, like interviews and maybe like Bible studies and different things. I'm going to have free content as well. But I think of the verse, don't put your pearls before swine. And not that you guys are, but you have just so many people coming in. I've had videos where there's just been loads of new people come in and you just get every type. And I just need some things to be that way and others to be more for a smaller private group. So I just want to tell you that my launch date is supposed to be November 22nd, but that may not happen because this may all have like a bunch of stuff might happen before then. But I just want to tell you guys that is my launch date, November 22nd. I'm trying to get things together. The other thing is, like with the private community and stuff, I do feel my time is valuable. As you know, I'm a mom. I also have a part-time job now. I'm finishing up a course I took to get this job. I hesitated on all these things. I'm like, oh, we might not be here. Oh, war might start. Oh, this might happen. But, I prayed a lot. It took a lot of decisions to get to where I'm at. And I'm just abiding, biding the time. No, I am just, what is that word? Oh my gosh. I'm just redeeming the time while I'm here. But some of the things I don't need to be doing, and I've made mistakes. Some things, God's given me open doors on. So this I'm praying on still, but I'm moving in this direction. And I look at it like the virtuous wife or the virtuous woman, maybe it is, where she went and she knew, it said something like she knew, and I'm sorry to paraphrase, I'm so busy, so sometimes it's hard to get all my stuff together, but it says in the virtuous woman, and I don't remember what book it is in, but if you look up virtuous woman, it says she knew she had something of value to sell and she sold it in the market. I think it was like purple linen that she'd sew or something. She knew she had something of value that she could give back. She could have given away the purple linen. She could have given it all away. And I do. I've been working for free, no ads or nothing on YouTube for years now. But if I want to spend more time with my kids and I want to see if I can have more time away from this part-time job and be home and stuff like that, which is what I'd like, I need to supplement that somehow, or I'd like to. So I do think I have value because I did go to school as a graphic designer. So I think there is things I can give back and just kind of entertainment. So I think I can make it a bit of an entertaining space as well as community so people aren't as lonely. And also, I'll keep this up, just free work. I've been working for free this whole time, which, praise God, I'll work for the kingdom, of course, because I'm not working for free. I'm working for heavenly and eternal things, but I am still here. So there is a level of, working here too. So I don't know. That's what I've been thinking. I'm going to start this page. We'll see how it goes. Maybe, I don't know if people are going to want to join, but it will be, I think, $5. That's what I'm thinking is like a $5 thing. So it'd be kind of like, an entertainment kind of thing and just social fellowship. I think I'll start off with no like community live streamy type of things where, we're all talking together. That will be like a lot of pressure on me, but I think we could build to that possibly. But yeah, there'll be stuff there to enjoy. So if you guys are interested, but I'll keep you up to date on that. I'm going to just work on it, get some content on there and keep praying on it. And, if we're still here, November 22nd is when, or if I can, if this is going to work and it's God's will, then I'll put that up and I will tell you guys how to reach that. And yeah, I'll just have a lot more there and be filming myself as well as filming others. And just, like I said, just kind of community stuff, like maybe fellowship stuff, talks on interesting topics, maybe controversial stuff. That's the other thing too on YouTube. You can't say a bunch of stuff. So I feel like this is more like a private, more smaller elite group. And by having it be on Patreon and being a little bit of a cost to somebody, you're not going to get just everyone. Whereas when you are on YouTube, you're just throwing it out to the World Wide Web, everyone's coming, and that can be a blessing and a good thing in its own self. But it's also nice to have smaller, committed, kind of like a more intimate group that have kind of earned their way into that group. You know, I do think I have valuable things when it comes to, you know, entertaining you guys or whatever. And I think I can earn your time as you watch the channel and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I'm still going to keep doing this. And yeah, I hope you found that stuff interesting that we talked about, and check out the Henry Groover dream. You can pray on it. I don't know. There was pieces that didn't fit, but like I said, sometimes these dreams don't come to pass exactly as we have them. And sometimes some of them are warnings. So some of them can be deferred. But I don't love when people give these prophetic things, these words from God, and they don't happen. That I take great caution from, because prophecies in the Bible, they came to pass. But if it's like, I had a dream or I heard a word or I had a vision, and you're not coming outright and say, I prophesy this or something like that, then they possibly can have a little bit of tweaking, because I saw it with my friend. Like, that literally happened. She didn't dream of her loved one. She dreamt of another scenario, but it really was the same. So, you know, there's a little differences with Henry's dream, but it looks like it's still happening. I mean, how could he dream of those two, of that country, and then, you know, at the same time it's happening that the queen died, and then this new king is here, and he dreamt that. So something like that. So I think it's worth giving it a look. Either way, convergence, it's all too many things at once. I mean, you got the red heifers, you got all the things. I mean, obviously I could go through a huge list and talk, but you've got all the things and all the puzzle pieces. Everything is set up. It's just, again, with the wait and suddenly. I mean, there's nothing we can do about it. He's God, we're not. And this is how it's going to be. There is going to be this waiting. And when the suddenly comes and he says, pencils down, you are going to want to hope that you felt like you gave it your all. And I will say, I once had a flash vision of me crawling across a finish line. I was in like a red runner's uniform. I probably said this before, in shorts and like the jersey, you know, the runner's uniform. And I was crawling across the finish line. So I'm not trying to put it on people that you should be at your most amazing place right now. Most people sound pretty tired, that who are looking at all, who've been looking at all this stuff for so long. They sound pretty tired or frustrated or angry or done or sad or, you know, whatever, just ready to go. And they are just more that way that I've seen them in a long time. But that's where it comes to, it's worth it, because when the miracle or the breakthrough or the rapture or any of these things happen, there's no turning back. It's the start of a new age, a new era. Jacob's trouble is a whole new era. And then the millennial reign is a whole new era. And it really is whatever. This is kind of like this is the training ground, or that's not even the right word. This is the place where you set up your eternity. And I'm not talking about earning your salvation or something. I'm talking about rewards in heaven, crowns, who knows, placement into military like levels, when it comes to how close you are to the intimacy to Christ. Like, okay, hold on. That didn't come out right. I'm not trying to say like, oh, if you know, run the race really hard here, you're going to have better intimacy with Christ. I don't know. What I mean is, see how even on earth, Christ had the whole huge group. He had he even sent out, I think it was like 72 people. And then he had to, you know, when he sent them out, so he had a huge disciple group. Then he had the 12. Then he had the two that he was always with, was like John and Peter. He'd take them, the transfiguration, and, you know, closer and closer. And then he had the one. John was even closer, because there was a time when Peter had to ask Jesus something, and he tapped John and said, ask the teacher, ask Rabbi, ask him this question. So, because he knew he was even closer. So the harder you run here, like you don't know, it could be like that, where that intimacy. Now, I'm not trying to be weird or whatever. I'm just saying, it could be. And that's even what I'm doing with this Patreon thing, where it's like, I have this huge, vast group of YouTube that I love, and there's weird people and bad people, but there's people I love. And then this might be a chance to get like that 12 or that inner, more circle. And then in that, there could be other things like closer levels, and I don't know, because they have tiers and levels and whatever. I'm saying all this not knowing if anything of this is going to happen. I'm just moving along in the mundane life, and when the trumpet calls, I'm good to go. So I'm just moving along. But yeah, I wanted to point that out, that there are these intimacy levels and groups, and that's okay. It's okay to have these groups. And I actually saw that in my millennial rain dream when I had this dream of the millennial rain. And I'm not all about constantly talking about dreams. It just happens to be, that's what I'm talking about right here. But I had a group. And I know there's so much more to that, but I was told I had this group and I was going to them. I didn't see who they were. And I saw someone I knew and I knew I wasn't part of their group, which is, so I knew I might not know who they are. I mean, I don't know who they are, but maybe there's that intimacy levels. And I think that's so cool because we have that here on earth. We have vast amount of friends sometimes, and then, or like acquaintances or people we just know. And then we have like smaller and smaller till it gets down to very, very close, pretty much 2 or 1 person or whatever, like really small group. So anyway, I've talked for quite a while and I went way longer than I thought. So I hope this blessed you. It was interesting to you. It was kind of all over, but just touching base, and I will talk to you guys again soon, or hopefully see you in the air. And until next time, God bless and shalom.